Okay, could I have everyone's attention, please? We're going to go ahead and get started with our panel tonight. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our monthly series here. This is our Amplifying BIPOC Voices in Sustainability for November. My name is Melina, and I'm a student intern with the Madison Office of Sustainability. I'll be helping facilitate the discussion tonight, along with Nina, a fellow intern with the OS. This series is hosted by the Social Sustainability Coalition, and this is an intern team that is housed within the Office of Sustainability. The purpose of our Social Sustainability Coalition is to expand the definition of sustainability into the social realm, as it is often overlooked in sustainability conversations. We want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this conversation on food justice. Before we begin, we at the Office of Sustainability want to acknowledge the lack of racial diversity within our office. This reflects a larger trend across campus and in mainstream environmentalism, where the invaluable voices of Black and Indigenous people of color are often excluded. We've created this series in an effort to recenter the voices of those who have long led the fight to protect our communities and the environment. We would also like to acknowledge that our campus currently occupies ancestral Ho-Chunk land. The Ho-Chunk have lived in a place their nation has called Dejob since time immemorial. The Ho-Chunk were forced to relocate multiple times between 1834 and 1874, but they always found their way back to Dejob. This history of colonization informs our shared future of collaboration and innovation, and we want to emphasize that our shared future was never intended to be a land acknowledgement, and in fact, our university has not come out with one yet. The Office of Sustainability recognizes that Indigenous peoples deserve the right to define and control their own food systems, and Native nations are at the forefront of the food justice movement. For today's panel, we have two incredible guest speakers from Rooted, Renesha and New, and we're going to start by giving time for each panelist to introduce themselves and talk about their work, and then we'll open up the panel for discussion and audience questions. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Renesha to go ahead and get started.
Thank you. I have to lower my voice if I'm very loud. Hello, everyone. My name is Renesha Carter. I have worked in community spaces for around the last 15 years. Some of my earliest experience in the food. Is that better? Still sounds like there's an echo. Is that okay? Okay. So some of my earliest experiences with food insecurity started really when I was around 6 years old. My mom would wake me up at 5 o'clock every morning. I stand up. Okay. Sounds better? Okay. So my mom would wake me up at 5 a.m.
Maybe try holding it a little closer. That might work.
Is that better?
Try talking and see.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try that again. My mom would wake me up at 5 a.m. every morning, and she would take me to volunteer with her at a food pantry. And this went on until I was around 14, 15 years old, until I got to choose my own volunteer experiences. But this really set the foundation for really working with the community, because in those times where she was packing boxes and handing out food, I got to talk and communicate and connect with community members. And my family is a family of 10. We were a really large family. And so my mom made just too much money to qualify for public benefits. So at the time, I didn't realize that this was a way that she supplemented our food income, was by receiving food and volunteering in these places. And so when I think about food insecurity and like where that really set the foundation for where I am today. And my work with Rooted, I work with some amazing people, including New. And I feel like I'm getting all like jumbled up now because, you guys are amazing, and it's nerve-wracking standing in front of all you amazing people and talking about my story. But how I originally got started into food systems is in 2014. My grandmother passed from diabetes-related complications. And I really started to question, like, why are my people dying? What is happening? What is going on with our food? And so when I was researching and I was looking at the relationship between diet and health, and I was talking to my mom, talking to my aunts, and I was saying, look at this new research, listen to this, and And she's like, you talk so passionately about these things, why don't you go to school for this? And so that's what I did. I came to UW and I majored in nutritional science and global health. And I started to kind of find answers to those problems of, what's happening in our food systems. And then that was a natural progression to how we grow and produce foods, from diet and nutrition to what's in our foods, how it's being grown and produced. And I spent some time in Guatemala. And through that experience, it was really one of the most profound experiences in my life. Because getting a firsthand experience of food insecurity again on a greater level, and getting a greater understanding of food systems and international food systems. And no one should have to choose between feeding their family and sending their child to school. And in Guatemala, there is a lot of kids are malnutrition, especially child malnutrition, is a huge problem. And so taking the information that I learned from there and trying to apply it to my own community is kind of how what brought me to Rooted. I had a job lined up when I got back at DuPont, and it was going to be an amazing position in the lab, and it was really prestigious, and I resigned when I got back because I realized that I really wanted to be working with communities, and I really realized my purpose and what I wanted to do. And so I ended up doing an internship with AmeriCorps, and the host site was Rooted, and that's how I got connected with them. And I work with some amazing folks. I'm in the audience, I won't point you out. But and it really connected me with how food is grown, and I really started to get just a better understanding of food systems and connecting with the community and what that means for folks. And when we think about food access, I think it goes beyond just providing food for communities or making sure there's grocery stores. We talk about the social impact of food systems and how we need culturally relevant food. We need education behind that. And I think that that's one of the things that our organization really really fights to do, is to provide those things for the community and provide or combat food access and food security or food sovereignty in a way that addresses all levels of the food system. So without talking too much, I have many stories to share, but I'm going to let Lou tell us a little bit about some of the programs that we have at Rooted, and I'll kind of jump in later.
Yeah, so again, my name is Nu, pronouns she, her, Nu. I'm bilingual in Hmong as well, fluently. And so Renesha said she would not, but I will. So shout out to Alex. He is a colleague and friend that works with us at Rooted. Absolutely amazing. So, if you have time later too, you can, dive into any three of us. So, sorry Alex, I had to embarrass you. So, but yes, my journey with food begins with as soon as babies could put something in their mouth. So I am one of 8 children and one of 6 girls in my family. And let me stand up so you guys could actually see. I'm not that tall, but I'm the tallest girl in the family. And they say that it's because I grew up loving eating dirt. That's what everybody says. Oh, you're so tall because you ate dirt growing up. And I was like, sure did. Yeah, but my journey with food and how I got to be with Rooted started with my family growing at Troy Community Garden on the north side of Madison. And so, because my mom does not speak any English at all, and so it started out with my mom gardening there, and as a requirement, gardeners needed to fulfill volunteer hours. And so with that, they're like, well, we also need this bridge between how garden organizers can also connect with gardeners. And so my mom would bring, me and my sisters along during garden registration time, and we would help do the interpretation work. And then Jill was the garden organizer at the time. She's like, wow, you're only like 10 years old, but you're amazing. Can you continue to do this? And so for me, it became this regular routine. Okay, February, March rolls around, I would be expecting the email or a call from Jill. And then I go, okay, growing season has started. And then I just knew for the rest of those, the growing season months, like I would be going and I would be helping with any interpretation that Jill or community groundworks at the time needed. And so then from there, I continued to kind of stay connected with community gardens, even, I went off to college, I still did it, started working in the community, and continued. And so then one day, my boss, Sheena, was like, hey, you were put down as a reference for somebody we're hiring for an assistant position. I want to, talk to you for reference. And so I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then we were talking, and then they were like, look, let me be real. We want you on the job. How can we get you to do the job? So I was like, I don't know if I want to do the job. They're like, but how can we really get you to do the job? So that's how I got connected with Rooted, and that's how I started with Rooted. And so, but that aside, like my journey, my food journey, I have a personal journey and then I have that professional journey with food that I go through. And so with Rooted, Rooted is actually the merger of two organizations in town. So I mentioned Community Groundworks earlier, so that's been in place forever. So that was an organization, and then there was also another organization called Center for Resilient Cities. And so those two organizations merged to become Rooted. And then with Rooted's programs, it actually came out with the red lining. So I don't know if you guys know, but Madison is also a red lining city, right? So what that meant was that there are certain areas in Madison that the homeowner corporation identify, like, okay, right? Only certain people could actually get a homeowner's loan to buy a home. And so that was the north side, the east side, and the south side of Madison. And those three areas in Madison are the three areas in which Rooted has our programs concentrated. So I work all over Dane County, but I guess if you are to place me, I fall more towards like our north side team. And then Alex and Renesha, they are more with our south side team. And so then we have our east siders as well. And so yeah, so that's how Rooted came to be. A lot of the work that I do with Rooted is with community gardens. So I'm a Gardens Network manager. And when I say community gardens, there are over 74 gardens, community gardens in the Dane County area and counting. And so that does not include our new garden that started this year. And over like 4,000 garden plots. And so that ranges from 10 by 10, like 10 by 10 foot plots to an acre plot sizes that families grow on. And so I work with both families who grow just for their own use, for their own consumption, and also farmers market growers as well. Just this year alone, my team, we've partnered with 3 other organizations. So Groundswell Conservancy, Renewing the Countryside, and Marble Seed, which was recently known as Moses. So if you know of them, that's their new name now. But we partnered up with them to do, should I say, not to do, but to officially get paid to do land access work and also become connectors. And so a lot of the work that I do now, not only is it involved with community gardens, but it's also like, where is land and how can we, one, keep that in agriculture, and then, two, how do we continue to serve the communities that are looking for this land, right? And so we provide educational components as well. So there are workshops throughout the growing season, and then we also put together a garden summit annually that happens, and I'm super excited for 2023's garden summit. So if you guys are interested, I also brought business cards. You're welcome to grab one later. But we will be next year. I'm throwing in a laugh hook. I told my team, look, we're not doing it in the winter where gardeners do not want to be out. It's also hard in the past for the garden summit participants to reflect the demographics of garden growers. And so we're changing things up that this year we'll hopefully be able to reflect that. Yeah. And so instead of, if you've attended in the past, it's usually held in February. Now it will be changed to mid-June sometime. And so, yes, but lots of exciting stuff coming up with the Garden Summit. And then there's also community gardens. We also have the community gardens are locally managed. And so each garden has their own garden organizers. And so Nicholas and I, who's the other gardens manager, he and we go in and we help to support and provide training as needed and resources as needed. And so yeah, so they also host like each garden will host their own like annual harvest festival at the end of the growing season as well. And so I wanted, before I pass it back to Renesha, to share more about like programming at Badger Rock. I want to end with a story that I have, or should I say, two stories, which is how we now have two of our farms. But yeah, since I am a storyteller by nature. But yeah, so in 2020, just as the pandemic was kicking off, a lot of home growers came to my predecessor and were like, look, we need land, we're always looking for land, we can't find land to grow, or the fact that they can't find large plots of land to grow on. Because if you do a lot of urban growing here in community gardens in the city of Madison, it's typically 10 by 10s, 20 by 20s, 10 by 30s, but never bigger than that. And so what ends up happening is that a Southeast Asian gardener in particular, they would take up, they would garden at Troy Community Garden, and the max amount of plots they can have there is 4. And so they would have, 40 by 40 plots on the north side at Troy, and then they would go to a different community garden on the east side of town, and they'll pick up the max amount of plots that can be allocated to them there, and then they go to the west side of town and they do the same thing. And so one gardener would have 3-4 community plots all over the city, and they would travel all over the city. And so that became an issue. And so they came to Rooted and was like, look, in order for us to save money, right, and for you guys to help us out, can you guys find us more land, bigger plots of land? And so that's how Anderson Farm Community Park came to be. So it is out in Oregon, Wisconsin, on Union Road. And so there we provide an 1/8 to 1/4 acre plots for families to grow on. And then last year, when I started with Rooted, I had 13 Hmong families come to me, and they were like, "No, we are losing the land, the 3 acres of land we've been growing on for the past 20 plus years, because this land is being bought out by the McFarland Village." And so then I was like, "Okay, what is the village doing with it?" And they're like, "They're turning it into a park. That's all we know. Can you help us out?" And so I was like, "Okay, well, I have to dig further. Did you guys have a lease? Can I look at your lease? Let's take it from there." And they're like, "We don't have a paper lease. This is a handshake agreement. We agreed to it. They said yes. We forked over the money, and we grew on the land." So that's how it started. And so I was able to find land that's just north of the 3 acres that they've been growing, and with the McFarland School District instead. And so that is the Dainty or Sunshine Farm Garden. That's new and in place this year.
Thank you. So as we said, a part of Rooted, we have the Troy Farm Community Gardens, and they have a production farm there on the north side. And then with Badger Rock on the south side, we have the Badger Rock Neighborhood Center, which is a part of the Badger Rock Middle School. And soon, next year, they're going to have there's going to be an elementary school that they're currently building on the site. So at Badger Rock, we're really Rooted in general, we're really community focused in the sense that we listen to what our community wants, and they tell us what programming and things that they want to see from us. So first, we have community events like community dinners, to where sometimes they're free, sometimes they're paid. At Badger Rock, we throw a lot of events in collaboration with like up and coming small business people who want to come and serve food at our event. They just have to, at our location, they just have to have a license to do so. And then also at Troy Farm, they also will throw free community dinners. Like they'll collaborate with Little John's or other community organizations to throw free dinners for the community. And typically those are in the summer, or we have paid dinners at Badger Rock in the summer. That's usually on Wednesday, and at Troy Farm that's usually on Thursday. And we also have community markets. Sometimes they're in collaboration with our dinners, and so we'll have like small businesses or up and coming businesses come out and sell their goods, or we'll offer games, and really just, we like to be a space where community members can come together. We have our community garden plots both at Troy Farm and at Badger Rock, and they're really low cost, and the community members are able to come there and grow and learn from each other. We have a lot of changes happening at Badger Rock right now, and so the space is it's looking a little different than normal, but we're kind of working through those changes, and we are excited when the new school come on so that we can offer more adult programming. I know the goal is to offer like more health focused programming, and right now we really cater to kids, and we have a youth employment program to where students from the middle school, they're able to come up, and they typically are employees at Badger Rock or youth employees, and they go through our youth employment program so where they can learn some of the farm focused activities that we participate in at Badger Rock and at Rooted. And now they actually are getting a youth employment program on the north side too, which we're really excited about, so that we can kind of expand those services throughout Rooted. there are lots and lots of things that we are doing and we are getting into, and but food sovereignty, and I think everything that we do has a food focus and a sustainability focus, because we want to create these systems that are able to run by themselves even when we're not here. Or if I was to leave or Lou was to leave, we want someone else to be able to step into our place and continue these things that we're building. So I'll stop talking for now.
I want to add something. In the beginning, a recognition, right, but just an acknowledgement of the whole Chunk Nation being here. I want to give you guys also another perspective to sustainability, right? When we talk about food sustainability, for me and my personal journey, like I said, I talked a lot about my professional journey, the work I do, but for me, my personal journey in it is preservation. For me, a lot of it is just how do I preserve what it is that my family's done, that my people's done. In agriculture and in food, right? Because I could tell people, right? People are usually like, oh, let's be sensitive about how we use this word, how we use that word, right? And they're like, we should be sensitive about, the word of starvation. And I'm like, yeah, but for me, I will starve. I will starve if I cannot find and eat, pumpkin leaves or pumpkin flowers. Because even if you go to the Asian store now, you can't find any pumpkin flowers. You can't find any pumpkin leaves. How my body grew up eating that. As soon as April rolls around, my body is starving. It's ready for food that's out of the dirt, And so for me, it's not just about sustainability. It's not just about food justice. It's about caring, and preserving what my family has always grown up with, and what my biological body, right, is tuned for, Because trust me, I do like my bread, I do, but I grew up with white rice. You can say whatever you want to say to white rice, but I grew up with white rice. And I love it. So yes, there are days when I go looking for just white rice. That's all I want. I will show up to a meal even like this and be like, oh, this is amazing. But where are my carbs? I need my white rice. So I just wanted to end on that note before, I guess we open it up to questions.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for those wonderful introductions. So now we just want to open up to the audience. If you guys have any questions for either or both of our speakers, just want to raise your hand and ask them. That's probably the best way to do it.
Not all at once.
The question was, how can students get involved in Rooted? That is a very good question. So it depends on what you are interested in. So we do have a farmer training program in Troy Farms over the summer. So if you want to learn production farming, you can get involved that way and apply for the farm training program. If you're just interested in kind of learning about the different things that we do as far as food preservation and growing practices, Rooted in Badger Rock, we have social media sites. So we have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. Specifically, Badger Rock's Facebook page has so many resources and videos on food preservation, food growing, from the harvest to seeding to harvest to what you do after with food, when you preserve food. There's so many videos on there that you can learn if you just want to kind of learn about the things that we do and how you can get into farming. But other than that, on our website, we always post our job positions there, if you're looking for more permanent work. We are always looking for collaborations with the community. If you have a skill or a recipe that you'd like to share with us, you're more than welcome to come over to either Detroit, do too much like videos and recording, but they are hoping to get into that. So you can always connect with us and we can like do a pre-recorded some like video to where you can kind of share your recipe or craft or whatever you like with us, and we'll share it kind of with our community members. So there's many ways. I think just reach out to us. You can reach out to either myself or you, or you can reach out to us through our social media sites, and that typically either will come to me or it'll go to the appropriate person and say, hey, I'm interested in this. How can I get started? And usually we're really responsive that way.
If anyone has any other questions?
So this is for Renesha. You said you went to school here at UW. Are there any classes that you would recommend for people interested in food justice or food systems that really sort of changed your mind or really influenced where you are today?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's been a while. I think as far as food justice, there was nothing in particular on campus, and I think that that's an area that of improvement for the campus, and it's to focus more on equality in the food systems and really highlighting the injustices that are in the food system, especially since I did my global health certificate and with the specific focus on food systems, I didn't really see too much of that. That's something that I had to learn just by being out in the community, by doing my study abroad experience. If you can study abroad in more rural areas, I would suggest you do so, because it was really, even as a person of color, we think that we don't have this kind of privilege living in this country, and it really opened my eyes to one, the privilege that I do have, and like how I can, the issues of other countries and how I can bring back what they taught me to my own community and grow from there. So like you kind of have to do your own like learning. And I know this sounds terrible, but I wouldn't, like you can't necessarily count on other people to teach you those types of things. You have to seek that out yourself. But I took a class, it's by Claudia Calderon, and I'm not sure if it's still a thing, but it was like maybe a 1 or 2 credit class, and I believe it was something about food systems. I can't think of the name. If you email me, I'm sure I'll find it. But and that class really just was like a general introduction to like sustainable food systems, not only here in America, but in other countries as well, and how we can apply that to like a broader viewpoint, I guess.
Thank you.
I know that question was towards Renesha. So I also worked for with the university for 13 years, and like Renesha says, UW-Madison is such a bubble, okay? Because when I worked at the university for the 13 years, I only knew the work I did, and it was really hard to go beyond that. But for me, I did a lot of like advocacy work in the community, and so that helped me a lot to understand what was it in the community that I was missing that the university didn't have. And if you are still currently a student, what I would highly recommend is that you go talk to your professors. Your professors are hiding so much like knowledge and network and connection, because our smaller communities are echoed in other communities throughout the nation. So yeah, good question.
So I know that you talked a little bit about your work with Alan Centennial Garden, and I believe I remember hearing about that you worked on a Mum Kitchen Garden project with them. I was wondering if you could talk more about that.
Yes, so Reba, the director there, she came to us looking for ideas. It's actually our partnership, our work with Brownswell Conservancy, that actually got them the plant recommendations they were looking for. Because if you guys are familiar with Allen's Botanical Garden, they have their edible kitchen garden that every year they switch out and they do a different theme, you know. And so, but yeah, so Reba reached out. Yimo with Brownswell was like, yeah, I work with, you know, I have a therapy garden with lots of Hmong elders. They will be the perfect people that you talk to. And so Reba then went with Yimo to Southeast Asian Healing Center and they talked to the elders there. And they had a conversation, you know, just on like, what is truly Hmong? Right? Because I mean, we could talk about like how they grow like bitter melon, but bitter melon is like shared among so many like Asian cuisines. And as they continue to explore and have that conversation, they're like, well, Hmong medicinal herbs. That would be what would be like truly Hmong. And so yes, the elders gave Reba a list, and there is a vendor from Minnesota who every year in the spring comes down and brings little Hmong medicinal seedlings and other vegetables as well, but their main focus is Hmong medicinal herbs. And so they brought it down. I met Reba out in a parking lot and was like, okay, pull out your list. And while we were, you know, going through and picking what the elders decided, it was actually really funny because one of the elders that she had this conversation with, she came over and she's like, no, why are you guys getting so many of that? Pull those out, don't buy that. Don't stick to the list. Buy this too, get that too. Because this is more important. And this is what you use it for. And so then yes, and so staff and interns also at Allen's Journal, they help put it in the ground. And then they had this huge like harvest festival that I missed out on. So but I heard that it was great.
By the way, New makes this really amazing bitter melon and chicken dish. It's so good.
I'm just curious, you said that you partner with Little John's and you're part of our university, so what are some other partnerships?
What's the question? What are some other partnerships that we've done?
So Little, so we partner with Little John. So if you guys don't know, Little John's, they not only cook food, but what they're known for is they take in vegetable donations. And they will take it on small scale to big scale. And so even like community gardeners, we tried it out this year where whichever Thursday night that Little John's was at Troy Community Garden, they also opened it up so that community growers, community gardeners were able to donate their excess produce. So, you know, if you've grown a bush of zucchini, you get 500 zucchinis versus the 10 you want. And so then gardeners were able to take that to Little John and be like, I am donating my, 5 zucchinis. And then they got a free cooked meal that night. And so that's what we did with Little John. The alternating Thursdays that happened, we partnered with BIPOC chefs. So Jessica Hung, she owns Morris Ramen, so she cooked for us. Here at the UW, I don't know if you guys know Yusuf. He cooked, amazing cook. We partner with Yusuf individually, but also with his organization Trade Roots as well. And then yes, we have lots of other partners. So yeah, on campus, just lots of various professors in general, yeah, because we also partner with some professors here who does research and research in horticulture specifically on like ground cover crops, and so they've donated, their excess cover crop seeds to us as well. Yeah, just lots of random stuff that, sorry, I can't pull out my head anymore.
Yeah, I think when we think about like our partnerships, we do a lot of work with community members, and we do more like smaller partnerships where we like to invite individuals who are like either up and coming we like to offer our space to them as a way to get more exposure for their businesses. So it's like we do so many like little partnerships with people in the community that it's hard to just say like, this. As far as like larger partnerships, again, we do partner with different departments within the university, and like different organizations like Badger Box, I know came and they did some booths at a lot of our markets. Again, we work with a lot of either professors or people on the campus who come and offer their services to us to offer either a workshop or for material, whatever it may be. So when you're a community organization, like you have so many different partnerships with other community organizations too, and because you have either overlapping services or you have complementary services to where you guys can help each other out. So I find we do a lot of those kind of one-off partnerships too, where it's like, hey, we're both working on the same thing. Let's get together and see how we can support each other, and it really happens kind of organically and isn't always so efficient.
So I also remember Nathan Larson, so he's also a professor here as well. If you've not yet taken classes with him, or if you just can go knock on his office door and pick his brain, he's amazing. He's also worked with, in collaboration with Rooted, Community Groundworks Rooted, for the last like 20 years before he recently retired with us. So, we're getting the short end of the stick from him. But yes, you guys know, Nathan Larson, go to him. I have a question for the audience. How many of you guys are in like agriculture of some sort, either soil, horticulture, even just research? Oh, okay. Who's here tonight just for food? Way to go!
Can I tell a story since this is about food justice?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So generally I don't tell stories like this, but so all of you stayed until this point, so I guess a lot of you are very, really care about the food justice. So let me tell you a story that is not about America, it's about a country at the other side of the world, China. It's about my hero, the person who's like a father figure of me. His name is Dang Jun. So, yeah, let me tell you a story about that. So, I was orphaned when I was 12 years old in an earthquake happened in 2008 and in my hometown. And at that time, that was a very big earthquake. I think 140,000 people died and 617 kids were orphaned, and I was one of them. And at that time I was 12 years old, and I live in city and never need to worry about the food. And when I was 14 years old, I joined one of the free summer camp, hosted actually by a company that my hero Dang Jun, Mr. Dong, working for. And in the summer camp, the majority of the kids orphaned, or all of the kids are orphaned in the earthquake. I think it was about 40 kids, and I was the kid. I was about 5'6", I was a little bit shorter than, now I'm 5'7", and I was about 5'6" at that time. I was 14, And I was literally the tallest kid among all of the kids, girls and boys. So yeah, that was kind of the first impression I had to all of those kids. And the real distance between me and them showed up really when I came to college. I was still in contact with Mr. Don, and when I was like in my senior year, I went to Beijing to do research in one of the research institutions, which I was very proud of. You know, I was a scientist. I was so proud of myself. And so he let me live in his apartment, well, his rental apartment, because the rent in Beijing is ridiculous. And he told me that he's very proud of me because I was almost so at that time, 617 kids. I was like one of the 2 kids who went to a real college. And currently, 617 kids, less than 10 kids went to a real college, and I am the only one who came to study out of China, and probably less than 5 went to grad school. Why? Because I was very privileged. So Mr. Don, like when I was a teenager, when I was like 15 years old, that was 2011, he launched a program called Free Lunch in China, which was trying to help the Chinese kids living in very poor area to get a free lunch. So what I did, I thought he was a hero, but what I didn't know was how bad the situation was before he started that program. Before that, the malnutrition rate among the kids in the country are like 15%. So yeah, 15% of the kids are malnutritious. That was why the majority of the kids, all the kids were shorter than me when I went to summer camp, because almost all of other people are living in the country and they couldn't get a meal. 1/3 of them can only get 2 meals a day. I actually read some data before that. So 1/3 of the kids cannot get any meat for a whole month, for any random month. So when I was a kid, like for a family who can earn like about $2,000, so it was 2,000 yuan, but I just transfer into this dollar so you can understand. So meat is a treat. When people can earn $2,000 in general, we need to pay for $20 for 1 pound of meat. So for those kids in the countryside that just don't eat meat at all, their family, usually those kids, they have their grandparents taking care of them, and their parents are working very, very, very far from home. And those kids living at those countryside, they don't have family, they don't have parents, and they just, hanging out, and a lot of them got like sexually harassed. A lot of them drop out of school very young, and a lot of them are malnutrition. Their grandparents know nothing about food, and they would not have breakfast, and they would ask the kids to take 1 plain bun and some pickles to school for lunch, which they would walk for 2 hours to school, and there is no heating at school at all. And at noon, when they try to eat the bun is already frozen. And they would eat 1 lunch and go home and eat some radish and potato, and that's their food for the day. Because of that, a lot of kids drop out of school when they were in primary school. And what Mr. Dong did was he launched a program cooperating with the local small country schools, which is usually like 30 people in total, including a teacher. And they asked for the people in the village for donation to build the kitchen. And then they would pay for students' lunch. Each student have like 50 cents for a lunch of a student, which is very, very little amount of money. But they made sure they require that a teacher to take a photo of each meal and send count how many students went to eat, and count how much dollars they spent in each meal, and send the one message to Chinese Twitter, which is Weibo. And they did that. it was such a success. A lot of kids got their first meat of their life, probably because of that program. And there were a lot of difficulties. Some of the country school, they would just make the food super nasty, so they can use the leftover to feed their pigs, which he canceled their qualification right away. But anyway, they tried for a few villages, and that was a big success. And when it happened, the nearby towns, the government saw it, oh, it's possible. So they started a similar program and really made it cover the whole China. And currently, the malnutrition rate for kids in the countryside is about 5%. When it's dropped to about 5%, it's already a pretty good number. That means some of the kids just can't be not malnutrition, they might have some other diseases. So he's a person that I admire a lot. He's a hero, and he will be the hero of me in the future. So that's the situation in China 10 years ago. It just started happening in 2011, which is 11 years ago, and in 3 years, the malnutrition rate dropped from 15% to 5%. That's a big change with such little effort. So the similar things, so that is the situation in China, which is already pretty good. Now what's the situation in the world? So in 2008, the malnutrition rate among all of the kids in the world are 23%. So that means for the majority of the world, the kids eat worse than Chinese kids. So just such a little effort can make such big change. Just imagine that. So since I don't know who of you might in the future become a project manager or something, but I hope. So this is called some effective altruism. So that is something that we can facilitate local community to make changes among a lot of poor communities. So yeah, when I came here, what surprised, one of the biggest culture shock was, so I came here and lived in my professor's home. The very first culture shock was when I realized she was using tuna to feed her cat. Because in my mind, tuna was something super expensive that I've never eaten in my life. And I went to the market and saw everything was so cheap. So in my hometown, if I need meat, if I earn $2,000, I need to pay $20 for 1 pound of meat, good or bad. That's the minimum price. But for my ex-roommate, who's from Rwanda, she needs to spend $200 for 1 pound of meat. And the eggs are, literally the price of eggs in Rwanda is more expensive than America. When she came to America and I realized how cheap the eggs were, she ate a ridiculous amount of egg. Yeah. Really, so yeah, that's just something that I want to share with everyone. And hope everyone enjoy my story and hope someone can change the world that I want to change, but I found kind of hard to do. Thank you.
Thank you for braving yourself and having the courage to come up here and share that story with us. A lot of that resonates with me, and with your canned tuna story. My grandma, who experienced the Vietnam War, or also the Secret War, she says that when she dies, she wants to be rebirthed, to become a dog. But her owners must be Americans, because Americans treat their dogs so well, even better than a king. So she says she wants to be reborn as a dog. But yeah, like food is so important to so many people. Our right, like I said, my family's experienced the more with the secret war and loss, and this is all trauma, and so it's passed on. In my basement, I have 3 deep freezers, 2 of which are for garden vegetables, and 1 is for butchered meats. And we have this fight all the time among my family members because we cannot eat through it, and at the same time we keep adding to it. So I'm sure if we go to the bottom, there will probably be food from 5 years ago. No lie. Yes. Any other questions?
If there's no questions, if you guys want to give a final statement or anything like that to add?
I'm gonna let you go first. I have nothing right now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for, inviting us here tonight, and for the cooks, and for where the food came from as well. But yes, thank you so much. Just, I'll just have to say, if you're gonna continue to eat, and even though it's hard to make change, baby steps, baby steps. That's all you need. Nothing works better than storytelling. So if you tell a good story, it'll leave an impression on somebody, and change will happen.
Yeah, so I want to thank you guys for having us out. To just kind of go off of what Lou said and what our storyteller said. I think that you can make change. I think it's up for each of us to live and lead the lives that we want to see, or be the change that we want to see in the world. And so we can just starting small, and if you start with a backyard garden, or start by reducing your food waste, or start by volunteering, and just educate yourselves and really get out there and make sure that you're living the way that you want to see the future generation live. And I think that that's hard, but the change starts with us, and we have to really get after that, and just change on an individual level before we can see that spread out to the rest of the world. And it's totally possible. Who knows? One of you guys could be the next major person who leads change in food sovereignty or sustainability. So thank you guys for having us.